Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. You may think my list of 5 things are going to be super basic, like putting ketchup on a Chicago hot dog, or referring to the Sears Tower as Willis Tower. I have lived in the city for 5 years, and I feel like I have spent every waking moment of those last 5 years trying to do as much as possible in the city. And so when I sat down and tried to think about what are the 5 things that I will never do in the city, it was actually really hard to come up with. However, I thought about this long and hard, and I'm quite proud of this list that I am bringing to you today. First things first is I will personally never ride the train alone at night. I love the trains. I take the trains all the time. I am an avid train user. I don't have a car, and so I am on the CTA constantly. But in the odd occasion that I am out late, train at night, I just don't want to feel uncomfortable. And if it's still like a reasonable hour, like before 10:30 p.m. or something, it is possible that I will take the train alone at night. But anything after 10:30, number one, I'm not out late at night much in the first place. So if it is the rare occasion that I'm out late, that's all good and fine. I don't mind taking the train late at night if I'm with somebody else, but just by myself, not for me. Not happening. Call the Uber. I think that was one thing I decided really early on when I moved to Chicago. When in doubt, it is not worth it. Just call the Uber. The good thing is Chicago is a very big city, but it's not very widespread. So depending on where you're going, it is usually pretty easy to get a reasonably priced Uber to get home. Personally, train at night, it's just not happening. Number 2, like I mentioned, I am an avid train user girly. I love the trains. It is probably my primary mode of transportation. I take the buses all the time as well, but the buses get hit by traffic and the trains do not. So for that reason, I prefer the trains. One thing I will never do is live a more than 10-minute walk away from a train station. I think that the trains are one of the best things about Chicago. I think it is the best public transit, probably except for New York, that we have in the US. But I know myself. And although I love the trains, I love myself more. And I will not walk further than 10 minutes if it requires me to get on a train. I also probably won't transfer. If I need to get anywhere that's gonna require me to transfer, won't do that either. So I'm a good train user, but I'm a lazy train user. And for that reason, if a train is more than 10-minute walk away, I simply will not do it. I will get too lazy and I will end up calling an Uber. That does not make sense for my finances in the same way that taking the train does. So I know anytime that I'm looking for somewhere to live, I have to be within a 10-minute walk of the train. That is just me being brutally honest with myself. 10 minutes, that's my max. Any further, will not walk for it. So I have a bubble radius of being able to be a 10-minute maximum distance away from any of the train lines. I don't care which train line it is. I just need to get somewhere. I need to be able to get somewhere utilizing the trains. Number 3 on my list, and this one I probably will have some people disagree with me on, but I personally will never kayak on the river. I will never do it. You could make it free. I don't want to do it. I have no interest. Kayaking on the river sounds like absolutely no fun to me. Here's my reasons. I've gone kayaking before. You see these arms? Not muscular. We're not working with much here to be able to propel me down the river. The river's kind of long. All of those things are enough reason for me not wanting to kayak. However, the big one, the amount of secondhand cringe that I get when I watch a kayaker in the river and an architecture tour boat is trying to go by and that kayaker's stuck in the middle and the architecture boat starts honking its really, really loud horn to tell you, get the heck out of my way, I need to move this boat. Oh my God, I want to shrivel up and die inside. It's so loud that everybody who's not on the river is also looking, and then you're just watching that poor kayaker like struggle to get their way out of there. I can't move fast. My arms won't do it. That sounds like those nightmares of when you're doing a talent show and you're naked. Like that's how I feel thinking about it. I think if that happened to me, I would just jump off my kayak, swim underwater, and wait there indefinitely. Like that's just not happening. I do not want any part of that. I think being around the big boat sounds scary. You're lower into the water. I feel like you can't see as much. I will always do an architecture tour. I will always do the water taxi. I love being on the water. I love water. Kayaking on the river, not for me, not for your girl. There's too many other options and every single other option sounds better. I have no interest in kayaking. I really just don't. Number 4 on my list, and I know that a lot of people are gonna disagree with this one because I know a lot of people do it. I personally, I will never commute to the suburbs. That sounds horrible. I know so many people who've had to do it. And the thing about commuting, everyone always says, oh, it's only 20 minutes away, 30 minutes away. They always quote the time without traffic. And you know what happens in Chicago? Traffic, like such bad traffic. Irving Park, it's only 15 minutes away without traffic. If you add the traffic in, it's like an hour, could be an hour and 15. From here to O'Hare, could be anywhere as little as 16 minutes to up to an hour and a half. I don't want to play that game. I have no interest in sitting in my car for extremely long periods of time, 2 times a day, to get me to a job and back. I understand this is a necessity for some people, but for me, commuting long distances is not happening. Luckily, I work for myself, I work in real estate, and I do YouTube, so I get to be home or like run around downtown in the city all the time, and I'm not going out to the burbs. But for me personally, doing that commute sounds like the actual worst thing ever. And vice versa. If I lived in the burbs, having to commute into the city, horrible. Neither of those sound fun. Every single person I know who does it loves to complain about it. And I've just kind of come to learn in my 30 years of life that if everybody is telling you that something is awful, it might be awful. And commuting sounds awful. Does not sound like it for me. All right, and that brings me to number 5 on my list of 5 things that I would never do. I love funky units. I love the weirder, the cooler, like historical features. Just, I eat that shit up. I absolutely love it. If you can't tell, I love me a big, funky, cool loft. There are 2 different types of lofts, and this is something that I have learned through touring 8,000 of them in the city. You have your concrete lofts and you have your wood lofts. Typically, most old like factory buildings are going to be wooden loft buildings. Means that it's wood between your floors instead of concrete. Very cool. Those wooden beams, beautiful. Absolutely love them. They look amazing. However, the bad thing about a wooden loft is that sound carries so much. You can hear people's footsteps, you could hear dogs barking, you can hear a lot. A lot of the time in wooden lofts, they'll be fully carpeted just to try and muffle out that noise a little bit. But welcome to 2024, nobody wants a fully carpeted unit either. It's just one of those things where like, yes, design-wise, they are so gorgeous and I appreciate them so much. But if you have somebody living above you and you're in a wooden loft, you will be able to hear everything. I have a client who moved into a wooden loft. Her unit is so cool. I gave her a full warning on this will be loud, and she's reached out to me. She still loves it. She knew what she was getting into. But she can hear like full conversations from her neighbors next door, and she can hear exactly what they're watching on TV. I don't want that. I don't like that. It is not for me. So for that reason, wooden lofts are pretty much out for me. The one exception would be if you're on the top floor, you can't hear things as much because you don't have somebody living above you. Or you can find specific like lofts in the building where maybe you're in the corner and so you only share one of your walls with another unit. There obviously are exceptions to this rule. It's not a hard and fast one, but in general, lower floor wooden loft units, not for me. We absolutely fell in love with one last year, and when I could hear the footsteps of the person above us, I was like, that simply is not happening for me. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up, and as always, hit that big red subscribe button. I post videos all about Chicago and would love for you to follow along. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.